just pop them
Pop them
in
in
your
your
mouth.
mouth. Okay.
And I mean, they were good. So I ordered a couple of McPops to go with my chicken sandwich.
Yep.
The fries, man, they were good. And the ketchup tastes better. All the ingredients taste better, man.
Are you going to come back?
My wife would kill me if I
didn't. Can't lose Josh in Rome here. I said the people are clamoring for a Loopcast After Dark to get our real insider conversations. I was talking before the show today about how adorable Josh has been overseas. I mean, posting dad selfies, making dad jokes.
The words adorable and cute were used.
Yeah, and I say potentially new original content. Emily in Paris, Josh in Rome.
No,
I think this is a natural.
I don't even know what that means, but I mean, hey, I walk across the bridge and I tell people on Twitter that I just crossed the Tiber. That's what I do. It's a dad
and that's
joke.
adorable.
But that's also adorable. Actually, it was kind of neat. Like, I mean, some things like instead of taking the public transportation, I had a lot of time to burn. I'm like, I'm just going to walk for an hour. I don't care.
Look at that.
And I went all the way to St. Mary Major and I prayed, at the First Marian Shrine in the Western world. And that's where our Holy Father was buried. So I said a prayer for Pope Francis. I mean, I do pray for the repose of his soul. I'm not dunking on him. I think it's, we do pray. And then, I mean, it's just been crazy. Like all the different things. Like I was on my way to Mass on Sunday, not at St. Peter's Square, but close to it, because they have a little side church there that's been since the 8th century. It's now a Divine Mercy Chapel, but it's called Holy Spirit, I think, in Italian. And I tried going right there to it. And as I'm on my way, they had blocked it off again because they're getting ready for the Pope, because he was going to be, it turns out he sang the Regina Coeli. So I had to keep zigzagging, blocked again, turn left, blocked again, turn left, blocked again. And all of a sudden I'm on a random side street, and who's there but Cardinal Burke. I'm like, hey, Your Eminence. I'm like, are you praying? He's like, no. It's like, wow, okay. I'm like, how are you? He's like, oh, very good. I said, well, I wasn't wearing this shirt at the time, but I'm like, I work for Catholic Vote, and I just want to let you know that all the people of Catholic Vote have been praying so much for you and every other cardinal that was in the conclave. And, obviously our prayers were with you. And he said, oh, well, thank you so much. He says, thank you for the work that you do. You do very important work. I said, oh, yeah. Thank you, Your Eminence. It's wonderful. Wow. And then the next thing he says, are you ready for this one?
Should we save it until after our sponsor for today's show?
No, he says, are you Josh Mercer?
Name recognition?
I said, yes. I was sort of like,
that's what? Amazing.
I know it's like a humble brag or whatever, but it really did feel like,
yeah.
I was kind of like almost embarrassed. I mean, like, wow. I mean, thank you. I mean, Your Eminence. I mean,
again, this is really adorable. I have to say. But
and then he had his loop socks on. No, he did not.
yeah. Okay, that would have been
that's a bridge too far, as it were. Yeah, over that Tiber.
Yeah, too much. But Josh, I do want to hear more about your experience with Cardinal Burke. But before we get to that, the only reason we could do this show today is the University of Dallas. Thank you for sponsoring today's episode. Today's employers want more than just technical talent. They're looking for leaders with integrity, empathy, and sound judgment. Our sponsor, the University of Dallas, offers a graduate MS program in data science and AI built on the principle that humans, not computers, drive innovation. Maybe an allusion to Pope Leo's choice of name. With their faith-informed core curriculum, you'll learn not just the hard skills, but also how to navigate uncertainty. You'll gain what's needed to lead with purpose in a world of constant change, because the future of business is human. Learn more by clicking on the description and the link below. I'll drop it in the chat. Thank you so much to the University of Dallas for making today's show possible. And Josh, back to Cardinal Burke. Anything more on that?
I mean, he really did say, keep doing the work that you do. It's very important. And that's why, I have to say he's right. We're not going to get too much into it today, but we have an action alert coming from Catholic Vote either today or tomorrow, just detailing a very important thing we're going to be focusing on this week, which is to try to make sure we get that beautiful budget bill that Trump's talking about passed, because it's got 3 really important things for Catholics. It's going to defund Planned Parenthood. This is the closest we have ever come. It's in the draft legislation. It made it. We need to make sure it stays in there. Number 2, it's got the defunding of surgeries, trans surgeries on minors. That's in there. That's awesome. And number 3, it's got a tax cut for every American, but it also, in addition to that tax cut, it has an expansion of the child tax credit from $2,000 to $2,500. Those 3 beautiful things are in that beautiful big budget bill. We got to get it passed. We'll have more of that in the actual alert, but I just want to let people know about that.
Awesome. And shout out to our mothers. Happy Mother's Day. We're going to get into it a little bit more, but I hope you guys have a wonderful Mother's Day, especially those here live in chat with us Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Oh my gosh. The more kids I have, the more we got to do it up for Mother's Day. I probably didn't even do enough, but I am so grateful for my wonderful wife and mother to my children. She is phenomenal, and a quick shout out to her. But before we get into any of that, Pope Leo has dropped why he chose his name. I think it struck us especially as some of the topics on our last shows have been directly related to this. I can share it here, but Erica, if you want to get into why Pope Leo chose Pope Leo XIV.
Yeah, so we kind of had an inkling last week with his initial remarks that he, in fact, had chosen the name after Leo the 13th, big hero of mine, big hero of Josh's, and you too, Pogo. We love Leo the 13th. He's great, the lion. But he specifically in his address to the cardinals, his first speech directly to the cardinals, he indicated that he chose it after Leo the 13th. And I'll just read the paragraph. We have the video, but it's all in Italian. So I'm going to read the translation over at Catholic Vote. We've got, sensing myself called to continue in this path of evangelization, I chose to take the name Leo the 14th. There are different reasons for this, but mainly because Leo the 13th in his historic encyclical Rerum Novarum, addressed the social question in the context of the first great industrial revolution. In our own day, the Church offers to everyone the treasury of her social teaching in response to another industrial revolution and to developments in the field of artificial intelligence that pose new challenges for the defense of human dignity, justice, and labor. So a direct mirroring there of Leo the 13th responding to the depersonalization, the abuse of workers, the loss of the idea of the common good as the driving principle of society at the end of the 1800s. And now he sees himself as confronting, as Pope, a new revolution, he calls it. And he points specifically to artificial intelligence, which, we covered last week talking about Rod Dreher and all that. So it was just a beautiful thing to read, but also very bracing and lion-like.
Understanding the moment.
Yeah. And Steve Cortez and I have an op-ed we authored. It's going to be running tomorrow. It's going to be talking about exactly this, that we chose the name Leo, Rerum Novarum, which is just a foundational document of Catholic social teaching, came out in 1891, condemned socialism and said that, there is a right to private property. And socialism and Marxism promotes atheism, promotes the idea of the government as the salvation. It's not an option for Catholics. He's big on freedom, but he did slam ruthless capitalism where you don't care about the dignity of workers. So Pope Leo the 13th was awesome. And he wrote that document. Now, what happened? 100 years later, 1991 comes along. You have finally communism, hit the floor, with the Soviet Union going up and all of Eastern Europe being liberated. Now, obviously, China was still there on the scene, and Pope John Paul II writes an encyclical kind of bookending that, right? Talking about the 100 years since Rerum Novarum. And his encyclical was called Centesimus Annus, 100 years, and so I think there's an opportunity, whether or not Pope Leo calls the 14th new Pope, whether or not he calls it 130th anniversary, because that's we're going to have our 135th or whatever. I'm not doing the math quick enough in my head, but next year, I would expect him to have an encyclical, that kind of ties those two together and addresses worker displacement from artificial intelligence, and also trade agreements, which I think have really harmed American workers in many ways. So, and that's one thing where actually, I'm not necessarily on the AI, but on tariffs and trade deals where Donald Trump is actually closer to Catholic social teaching than liberals give him credit for. No, actually, it's funny. I was watching Italian TV last night, and the meme came up with Trump as a pope or whatever. I just like laughed. I'm like, really? Remember how that was like the most evil and
That's so
insane
old news.
controversy for like
Yeah.
40 minutes? Everyone lost their minds. Give me a break.
That's so pre-conclave. Moving on, guys.
Yeah, we're moving on for sure.
Yeah. In the address, he also, I thought this was interesting, and people aren't really picking up on it yet, but he did have an outline, as it were, to the cardinals of his agenda, or like I would frame it as how he wants to focus the fight in this confronting of the new revolution. And he gives a nod to Pope Francis, specifically in Evangelii Gaudium, and he highlighted what he called several fundamental points. And these I found interesting, what he chose to pull out. So he said, first is the return to the primacy of Christ in proclamation. And this is something that it's sort of a quirk that I have when I see a new papal document, is I quick go like Control F and I do Jesus Christ, just to see how many times the name of Jesus or the name Christ was actually in the document. I have to say,
bingo game.
There's been a little dearth in the last few years or so. 12 years.
We're looking forward.
And so when I saw this, I was like, yeah, it's Control F, Jesus Christ. This is going to be great. The primacy of Christ in proclamation, the missionary conversion of the entire Christian community, growth in collegiality and synodality. Maybe we'll get a definition of synodality. Attention to the sensus fidei. So that would be the sheep that we're going to smell like, especially in its most authentic and inclusive forms, such as popular piety. Did you see that? Inclusive forms, popular piety. That means, what are all the little church ladies doing in the church? Or where do we see growth in the church? It should count for something. Like, I don't know, John Paul II talking about divine mercy taking off in Poland. You might also consider expressions of popular piety like the Chartres pilgrimage in Europe, which has had tens of thousands and more and more and more young people attending it. Guess what? It's an extraordinary foreign mass pilgrimage. That would be an expression of popular piety. So really some interesting nods here.
I'm kind of unfamiliar with the term popular piety. What is...
Yeah, so popular piety is the sort of traditional term of just saying what devotions are resonating with the people in different countries or all over the world or globally. So before Pope John Paul II made Divine Mercy Sunday a thing, it had grown in popular piety, especially in Poland, right? And in the in Europe.
Just
so
like
that was
Sacred Heart in France,
Yeah. The rosary is a popular piety. It's not a liturgy in the church. It's not a sacrament, but it's an expression of popular piety, right? Going back to St. Dominic. Would be another example of popular piety. The brown scapular, really great expression of popular piety.
For sure.
Well, you know which one that the Pope just tried to might rejuvenate, actually, because his first trip outside of the Vatican was to that, it's an Augustinian place outside the city. I forget the name of it now, Calazano or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I think he's going to probably promote the white scapular, which is very popular with Augustinians.
What would the difference be between the white and the brown?
Hey, look, it's been a busy weekend. I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to get everything. Let's just say we'll leave that for the chat to Google.
Yeah, Josh, I'm just used to you being basically an encyclopedia. So sorry to test you too much. But yeah, no, that's an interesting. I like that conversation, because how many Catholics you talk to that are like, yeah, I pray a daily rosary, or I wear brown scapular. Those were
Our Lady of Good Counsel. That was it. He made a trip to the shrine.
Our Lady, that's right.
Miraculous medals are super popular, I think. With
that's another popular generation.
Those are ones that I just see everywhere in America. Probably those are the big three: brown scapular, miraculous medal, rosary.
Divine Mercy.
That would be the big three. Divine Mercy you see everywhere too, for sure. Sorry. So you were saying, Erica?
Yeah, no, I thought that his address to the cardinals was very hopeful and very, very focused on the missionary aspect of the church to the world, but emphasizing not so much like the church is in the world in the way that Father James Martin, for example, would say, but saying that the church is going to the world, proclaiming Christ first, primacy of Jesus Christ, the primacy of Christ in proclamation, the missionary conversion of the entire world. And it was a great address. And
love it.
And he said, we are the chosen people, which, is true.
Yep. Nods to Gaudium et Spes again, and also to Benedict XVI, Spe Salvi. Yeah, he did a little quote of that as well. So,
And so he also addressed journalists this morning, Josh, and you were there.
Yes, I was.
So, okay, let us in. What's going on?
I mean, the speech was in Italian, but they had it transcribed on the television, and so I was able to read it. But he starts out with a joke in English because everyone claps so hard, and he says, "Well, when people clap at the beginning, that's very nice, but if they clap at the end, that means they actually like something that you said."
they're still
Along
awake.
those lines, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, I
what
think
he
I
said,
have it
but-
here actually.
Yeah, let's play it. It's just cute. Yeah, we love him.
Buongiorno. Good morning, and thank you for this wonderful reception. They say when they clap at the beginning, it doesn't matter much. If you're still awake at the end and you still want to applaud, thank you very much.
Yay. Josh is there somewhere in the crowd of thousands.
So,
But,
Josh, what was it about?
Yeah, so I mean, he thanked journalists for their service to the truth. He said, "We are living in times that are both difficult to navigate and to recount. They present a challenge for all of us, but it is one that we should not run away from. On the contrary, they demand that each one of us in our different roles and services never give in to mediocrity. The church must face the challenges posed by the times. In the same way, communication and journalism do not exist outside of time and history." St. Augustine reminds us of this when he said, "Let us live well, and the times be good, and the times will be good. We are the times."
I love that quote.
He's obviously, as an Augustinian, going to be quoting from that great church father many times. It's hard to go wrong.
Looking forward to that. Yeah, really hard to go wrong there. Gave a good Mother's Day homily as well, I saw.
Yeah, he's talking to the mothers. He mentions mothers quite a bit, so I'm enjoying that. He's talking about the Good Shepherd Sunday, of course, and so he primarily preaches on that. But he also gives a nod to the mothers. Happy Mother's Day! One of the most wonderful expressions of the love of God is the love that is poured out by mothers, especially to their children and grandchildren. And then, of course, he also talks about vocations because yesterday was like a big whammy for the church. We had Good Shepherd Sunday. My sheep know my voice. They follow me. We had Mother's Day. And then, of course, we have Vocation Sunday as well. So he's also talking about the gift of vocations, the priesthood, religious life. So beautiful. Again, like all of these words so far, very grounded in scripture. A little nods to John Paul II, nods to Benedict XVI and to Francis. And it's just been great the last few days getting to know him and starting to see just the steady, so far very steady hand, nothing shocking or out of the, it's like shockingly normal, right?
Well, I say one thing that I just talked to a lot of people about that they're even surprised this wasn't the case before. He moved back into the papal apartment.
Yeah, Apostolic Palace.
Apostolic Palace, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he was addressing the journalists, he actually did the blessing, whereas Pope Francis, when he did a silent blessing.
He just looked at you?
I mean, I wasn't there for when Pope Francis addressed it, but it was a silent blessing.
I like Latin. I think he did it in Latin too. Leo did.
He sung the Regina Coeli in Latin too.
Oh my gosh. Can we play that?
Yeah,
I
awesome.
love this.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, buona domenica! E ai giovani dico non abbiate paura, accettate l'invito della Chiesa e di Cristo Signore. Alleluia! Ora pro nobis Deum. Hallelujah.
Not a bad voice.
Yeah, good voice. Very John Paul II vibes. Like
I feel like that's kind of
A very good voice.
Yeah.
You know, that's nerve wracking for a lot of priests. Like, I got to get in front of everyone and sing this now.
Did you see what happened on that popular sports podcast?
Yeah, the Pat McAfee show.
Yes. Do you have that?
Yeah.
Oh.
I got the link here.
Yeah, I got it. This is so funny.
This is great.
Everyone is enjoying this.
Latin is back, baby.
Pope Leo, anointed, the 266th Pope.
In nomine Patri,
Who?
Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
We got a Catholic on the program.
What you just who to?
In nomine Patri et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
That's a pretty
Okay,
good
so it's
one.
Father.
Yeah, Father, Son, Holy
I heard
Spirit.
Padre there. Is that Latin?
Yes.
And what was the second one?
In nomine Patri et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
Spiritus Sancti, the Holy Spirit. I mean,
That's
that
really
sounds
good.
really cool. I don't think I'll ever say Father, Son, Holy Spirit ever again. It's Il Padre,
Yeah, in nomine Patri
Illumina Padre,
et Filii
File,
et Filii
Illumina Padre, et File,
in nomine Patri
in nomine Padre,
et Filii
et File,
et Spiritus Sancti.
et Spiritus Sancti. Of course.
You remember.
One more
In
time.
nomine Patri
In nomine Padre,
et Filii
in File,
et Spiritus Sancto.
nomine Padre, in File, et Spiritus Sancti.
Yeah, there you go. Pretty much got it.
Pretty much speaking Latin now.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, I'm gonna lock that one in.
day.
This is a big day for me.
Yeah.
Illumina Padre, Infine, Spiritus Sancto.
Okay.
That's great.
He is setting the standard for podcaster pronunciation of Latin. I don't think I would do that well. I've been Catholic my whole life. I studied Latin for 2 semesters. Actually, longer than that. I just studied Latin in high school.
You did, yeah.
We gotta get this guy in the horn, man. He killed that. He's got to go to a Latin mass somewhere.
That
Hey,
was
he said the
awesome.
standard.
I'm stirring. That's good.
Latin is back, baby. So awesome.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm in shock. That was impressive.
Yeah, so we
he-
kind of go though from the high church, like Latin is back. We've got the scriptures, we've got the, but then Pope Leo is also our Midwestern Pope, right? And
Yeah,
He
Bob-
is.
Bob from Chicago.
Bob from Chicago. Turns out Bob has brothers from
Oh,
Chicago.
yes.
They're
as
they're
well.
calling Chicago the cradle of popes now. I hear on the streets. That's what they're
course.
saying. Look, some are saying.
It's cradle
So,
of some other stuff.
This, of course, came up. I cannot get over how funny it is that he has brothers from the Midwest and how I've never felt this level of representation. Like, what is more
Never.
American than having relatives that pop off on Facebook about politics? There's
pretty
nothing more
American.
American than that.
Yeah.
I mean, they are boomers.
So my personal favorite moment so far, other than finding out about the MAGA brother in Florida, was they sent a news crew out to go get the first phone call between brothers.
Oh my
And
god.
Yeah, this
here's
is the middle
AP.
brother.
This is the middle brother, or yeah, because he was the youngest. Pope
Yeah,
was the
the Pope
youngest.
is the youngest. Yeah.
Oh, he's called for 2 hours already.
Well, why don't you answer your phone?
Well, first I need to know you're on the air right now. This has been going on since 11 o'clock this morning. This is the first time I'm hearing that this thing rang, and we are being filmed and recorded.
They're like annoyed with each other.
Right now?
Right this very minute. Oh, he's called for 2 hours.
First off, shame on these AP reporters. You should know this is going to happen. Okay, if anyone has brothers from the Midwest that are kind of grouchy, like this is exactly how my brothers answer the phones. Like, you didn't
Why
pick up
don't
on
you
the first
pick up
call.
your phone?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh! Except my brother would yell it and throw in a few expletives. So
Exactly
Good
right. Like this is
thing the Pope
representation.
is holier than our family.
I get this.
The Midwest culture.
So
And
apparently,
actually, one of the reporters went online and just said, "Hey, just to other people who just maybe don't understand or appreciate the Midwest, it doesn't matter. You know, you could be you could be the King of England, the Pope, President of the United States. Midwesterners are still going to talk like that to their siblings. I mean, it's just there's no way. It's
come on, I've
he's not going
never-
to say, "Oh, your excellence" or "Your holiness." Like, no. Hey, Rob, what's the deal?
The other thing that came out over the weekend, which is hysterical, is that the New York Post went through all of the Facebook
Oh,
activity of
man.
the brother,
Yeah,
and he had some
Bad
choice
word.
words to
Scroll
say
down.
about
Don't want the word.
politicians.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, what is funnier than having kind of your shy, dorky brother in Chicago, and then you're just tanned up MAGA brother in Florida who got out of Illinois because
He's
the
even
taxes were
wearing a
too
Hawaiian
high.
shirt in this
And
picture.
I mean, come on, this is everyone's family in the Midwest.
This
Like,
is so
everyone-
on brand.
And now
I'm just
he's
thinking,
the
like,
Pope.
if I became Pope and they just start going through my brother's Facebook history,
Oh,
man, what would come of that conversation?
A treasure chest.
Yeah, this is where we're at. This is where we're at.
oh my gosh.
So
yeah. Can we
Yeah.
just play the older
Midwest.
brother? So the older brother goes on Newsmax, this one here, and the
Uh,
Newsmax guy
the
is
MAGA
like,
brother.
yeah, the MAGA brother, Louis or Lewis. How do you
Yeah.
say it in Chicago?
Incredible.
Yeah,
and watching him on the balcony
he's
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about seeing him up on the balcony.
Here
No
we
bad
go.
words, I promise.
and watching him on the balcony, and he started to do his initial prayer and speech to the crowd out there in Italian, and I thought, oh, I'm not sure what he's saying. Then he switched to Spanish, and I thought, okay, quit showing off, you little jerk. But, and watching him on the balcony, and he started to do his initial
There
prayer
you
and
Oh
speech to
man,
the
this
crowd
is
out there.
incredible. This is exactly how my brothers would speak. By the
This
way,
is how Josh would be. This
Yes.
is Mercer. He's just like, he's talking in Italian. I don't know what he's saying.
Total
Whatever.
show off.
A little show off. Yeah.
This is the
Why, you
best.
can't
Like,
speak English? Not good
oh
enough for
my
you?
I love it so much. I
Oh
love
my
it so much.
goodness.
This is culture. But before we get into the next section of today's show, shout out Home Title Lock for sponsoring today's episode. Did you know that American homeowners have over $32 trillion in equity, and criminals are targeting it with a growing scam the FBI calls house stealing? Scammers can transfer your title out of your name using a one-page document they file at the county. Then they can take out loans against it or even sell it behind your back. The scariest part, you won't find out about it until collection or foreclosure notices start arriving at your mailbox, leaving you with a financial and legal nightmare. Best way to protect your equity is with Home Title Lock's exclusive $1 million triple lock protection. This service offers 24/7 monitoring, urgent alerts, and if fraud should occur, their US-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud and restore your title. So when was the last time you checked on your title? If you're like me, the answer is never, and that's exactly what scammers are counting on. The good news is we've partnered with Home Title Lock to offer you all 30% off their services. So go to HometitleLock/LoopCast to save 30%, and you'll also get a free title history report to ensure you're not already a victim. And make sure you check the $1 million triple lock protection details when you get there. Click on the link in the description below. I'll throw it in the chat. That is HometitleLock/LoopCast. Thank you, Home Title Lock. Okay, on to the next section here. We had a lot of activity on the home front. Josh, I know you've been doing your little Emily in Paris thing over there in Rome. But looking back to Washington, we have this big, beautiful bill, right?
Have you even watched that show? Can
No,
this is
I haven't
bothering me.
watched it,
Okay.
and I'm gonna just choose to be intentionally obtuse about it.
Okay, sounds
because
good.
I like the
Moving on.
comparison. So we're shifting to Washington here. We have a big, beautiful bill trying to pass through. So Josh, you mentioned before 3 important new things about it. Not very business as usual. We have raising the child tax credit. I also saw an increase on taxing the wealthiest, which sure takes away a lot of sting. I think the opposition was, oh, it's going to be the tax cuts again. We actually have a little bit of an increase there. And then the closest we've ever been to defunding Planned Parenthood. So if you can be more specific, what is different this time around about actually taking away money from Planned Parenthood?
Well, I mean, it's in the bill. I mean, we've tried so hard. I mean, there might be legislation to defund Planned Parenthood, and we try to get the votes for this or for that. But this is the draft bill that, the people in the House and talking to the White House, that this is the bill that they're going to put forward. It only needs a majority in the House. Obviously, everything only needs a majority in the House. But because it's using reconciliation, it only needs 51 votes in the Senate. And for it to be in the bill to defund Planned Parenthood, that is outstanding. We're not trying to hey, why don't you include some stuff? It's right in there from the get-go, right from the beginning. So that is outstanding news.
And just to be really specific, it doesn't name Planned Parenthood so far as I can read when I'm looking at it's on like page 58, some section here. But it's saying that there shall be no funding for organizations, affiliates, subsidiaries, successors, and clinics that, as of this act, is a community provider of abortions other than, and then it has the exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother. But that is Planned Parenthood. That's what they do.
In other words, any organization
providing abortion. Yeah. Exactly. So very good language. Josh, what do you think are the chances it's going to actually stay in there?
I mean, I feel pretty confident. I mean, usually what happens is they unlock a bill like this and it has kind of watered down language and then you're trying to strengthen it or whatever. But the fact that it's already in there, that is outstanding news. So, I mean, I think what happened is there's just fewer pro-abortion Republicans in the House and then the Senate. I mean, there's still 2 in the Senate for sure. But overall, I think Republicans understand, even some who might be a little bit indifferent on this issue, why are we giving money to the abortion industry when they obviously are spending millions and millions of dollars to try to elect your opponents, the Democrats.
Yeah.
Like, it seems kind of dumb. Like, so even on the self-interest standpoint, Republican lawmakers are like, yeah, we should probably defund the left. And so that argument has also helped sway the day. I mean, again, I would love to be able to say, how about we make it illegal to kill babies? Okay, well, if we can't do that, let's make it, let's stop donating to organizations that kill babies. But if it's the argument that puts it over the top, that gets us the last few votes that we need to get this done, is to say, hey, stop funding the left. They hate you. If that's what works, fine.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Josh, can I test your knowledge here?
Why not?
Trump is looking to accept a quote palace in the sky from Qatar.
Yeah, that was the initial ABC News report from Jonathan Karl, and his initial report made it seem like Qatar is just going to give this palace kind of in the sky, this gorgeous plane.
Boeing 747, I believe it's $400 million before any retrofitting is done.
Well, right. But then the question is, I mean, if it is a gift, then it's an outrage. But then other reports are saying, no, in fact, what Trump is doing is he's buying it because from Boeing or Qatar or whatever, and that, they're getting it for a deal or something like that because, for some reason. So like,
well, no, you know why? Because Air Force One hasn't been replaced since the 90s.
Yeah.
No, since 2001 after 9/11.
Okay, so then Boeing was supposed to deliver, and they keep delaying it and cost increases, and they said they couldn't do it until 2029 after he'd be out of office. So it's partially like, how insane is it that we got to go to another country, got to go to Qatar to get a proper Air Force One? We can't even get it built in our own country. Oh,
it's like the ultimate offshoring.
It's almost like
we
need to solve this problem. We can't even make Air Force One in our own country.
Yeah.
Crazy though. Yeah. And then he sicked Elon on him and said, hey, we need this done faster and cheaper. It's unbelievable. We don't have a new Air Force One at this point. And they said, okay, maybe we can do it by 2027. But yeah, Qatar's like, hey, you can have this gorgeous palace in the sky before. So you're saying it's not actually a gift. We'd be buying it from them.
I believe so. I mean, again, ABC's Jonathan Karl just made it seem like, Trump is accepting this illicit gift. I mean, if that is, again, I'd like that verified. Obviously, getting a gift of $1,000 here and there is not that big of a deal when you're president of the United States. Who cares? But $1 million aircraft, I'd want to make sure. But I'm not going to jump to conclusions. I mean, that ABC News might get this report wrong would not shock me.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting. I just thought, because I was saying history is like no president has ever gotten a gift that it would be the most expensive gift of all time. I mean,
and it's also illegal,
right? Mm-hmm. What is the current? There's like an annulments clause or something like that.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Is in fact, if let's say the King of England came over and gave something to Donald Trump that was worth like $20,000, okay, Trump is faced with a choice. He can, claim it as a gift to the American people, and it stays like at our National Archives or something like that, and he doesn't own it personally. Or if he accepts it as a gift to himself, then he has to pay, I don't know if it's that he pays taxes on it or he has to reimburse the Treasury back for whatever the value of the gift is, so that, you're not profiting off of the office. Mm-hmm. And so that would be the point. Like, now in this case, it's not like it's a gift to Donald Trump himself either. Right. It would be a gift to the United States. But the question is, it would still be a problem because it's like,
400 million.
What exactly is Qatar getting from this deal? Is it like a secret deal? We don't know the details of it. Like somehow they're getting maybe nukes, not that they would get nukes on the side, but some other, defense contractor stuff or military aided equipment, or, so we the American people would have to know, like, okay, did you buy this plane or did you get it in exchange for something? And if you got it for exchange for something, let us know. Like, let us know if you just put the American people on the hook for something.
Yeah,
I'm a big Trump guy, so I want to get to we all deserve to know what happened.
For sure. And I think he said if he accepted it, then it would go to his presidential library after too, was what they're saying. So
it wouldn't belong. Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't, I guess, belong to him.
Sounds like we need more information.
Yeah. I just thought that was kind of a
presidential library. Then he's treating it, he would be treating it as if it was a personal gift to him.
Yeah.
And again, that would be like, get out your checkbook.
Yeah, I know, so crazy. Speaking of checkbook, it looks like the United States and China over the weekend actually hammered out a trade deal, which talk about busy. I think they also negotiated a peace deal between India and Pakistan, which is crazy. And Erica, I
A
know you
It was
covered
ceasefire.
a
that. Ceasefire, yeah,
busy
not peace deal yet.
ceasefire.
Busy
Yeah.
weekend. I mean, we've been eyeing obviously a lot of the Pope stuff, but on the home front, it's been crazy. So the United States and China got a trade deal done, tentatively signed right now. 2 days after 2 days of negotiations in Geneva, Switzerland. And so some key points here, they'd be reducing the tariffs for a temporary 90-day period of time, 145% to 30%. That would be the U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods. And then the Chinese tariffs on U.S. goods will go down from 125% to 10%. So quite the de-escalation we have here. So both have agreed to establish a new platform for ongoing trade talks. And in economic context, I mean, this is a trade war that halted nearly $600 billion in annual U.S.-China trade. So pretty significant, disruptive supply
To say the
chains.
least.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, maybe the most significant. The deal is basically aiming to address this $1.2 trillion U.S. trade deficit that we currently have and the national security concerns, including fentanyl, technology trade, and theft of IP, those kind of things. The Chinese perspective said they described the talks as candid, in-depth, and constructive, noting important first steps towards resolving differences, but we're cautious about calling it a full deal. I also saw reports from Scott Bessent saying that China basically just disregarded Biden trade at all. Like they didn't follow any of the rules because they had no respect for him. And I mean, he was basically asleep at the wheel. So no surprise there, but really good movement, I think, on that. Basically what we expected, right? I don't think anyone expected 145% tariffs to last.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's a hopeful sign. It is a little concerning, if not surprising, that China hasn't come out and basically like reciprocated how Scott Bessent is presenting what happened. But again, not surprising given that it's China. And I think that everyone's gonna blow their lid and be like, oh my gosh, where's his integrity when it comes to the tariffs? And like, did he really want to do this to address the deficit, or did he do this to do a trade war with China or to protect American? And the answer is a little bit of everything, I think. And we're seeing that play out with like Trump wants
Well,
to, the pragmatist, he wants the best possible outcome for the United States. And if that means like pushing the tariffs all the way to, massive trade wars, then he's going to do that. But that's not actually what's best for the United States. So he is going to negotiate. He wants to negotiate, even with China.
I mean, if you're talking about the advancement of robotics, and mechanization, and then also artificial intelligence, it makes sense to have tariffs on every country because if it can be made anywhere, might as well give an incentive for these companies to make it here in our own country and employ at least some workers. Because again, what we're talking about the possible displacement of so many workers. So, it's in our interest to make sure that we have some stuff that's, onshored.
Yeah, no question. And then I also was surprised to see that we mediated an India-Pakistan ceasefire. I mean, Erica, we were going to cover it on Friday's show, didn't get to it because of the Pope news, but
Right.
I mean, you were pretty convinced like this was going to lead to a full out war.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was pretty frightening. So I did all the research last Thursday, Friday on the story of India and Pakistan. And of course, last week, what we saw was the first time that India had done a full-scale retaliatory strike inside Pakistan's territory since, in the last 6 years. And the tensions were running really, really high. Pakistan, of course, had launched an attack that killed 26 tourists. And then India, it was getting very tense. And I think it was easy for us to kind of gloss over it last week and not pay attention because people forget that Pakistan and India are both nuclear powers, and not just like, oh, they each have like 3 or 4 weapons. India has around 250, it's believed, nuclear warheads, and Pakistan is about 150. So we're talking, this is really, really bad. And not only that, but Pakistan had signaled just, in the last few months, they had said, well, as the smaller nation, if we feel that a stronger nation is threatening us in a unilateral way, we will not hesitate to use our nuclear weapons because, again, they're just saying out there, It's not that these are not off the table for us. We will use them if we feel that the stronger nation is coming on. So this was a real issue last week. Now, 2 weeks ago, JD Vance had said something, looking at the conflict, the escalation, which was getting more and more concerning. And he'd made a couple of signals to the press that we're going to let them duke it out. It's not America's problem. We're not going to get involved in this war if it becomes a full-on war. But it turns out that over the weekend, he and Marco Rubio were on the phone because it is in nobody's interest if we have a nuclear war anywhere on the planet at all. I was reading about it. It would be so
especially
bad.
where you're talking about 1.5 billion people.
Right.
It is shocking how many people live in India.
So many people.
It just blows my mind.
Yeah, exactly. So over the weekend, some kind of deal was cut. There is a ceasefire, and they are going to start talks on what Marco Rubio called a broad set of issues at a neutral site. And so really the United States did broker this deal. They are, thank God, walking us back from the brink of nuclear war. And hey, if these are graces from the conclave, these are graces from all the prayers for peace that went out over the weekend at the behest of the new Pope, so be it. Like, this was another.
I'll take it.
We went to the line here. That's how close we got.
Interesting. I am
I
seeing
saw,
that.
of course, Twitter was having fun with it. There's the picture of JD Vance going like this.
Oh, unbelievable.
Muting my in-laws,
Unbelievable.
So it's like JD Vance called the in-laws this weekend.
So someone in the chat is saying they are from India and they've already violated it. So quick Google search. They have already repeatedly violated it. Both sides have violated it. So what we can conclusively say on the show is we're involved in mediation where I don't think there's an expectation that we would be involved in mediation. Probably good for the world that we're not going to be completely not involved. I think it's not in the best interest of anyone for nukes to be tossed around. So yeah,
or even if they ruled out nukes, a war that would involve 1.5 billion people, that would be bad.
Yeah.
Period.
Very bad. Very, very bad. Especially since there's the region, of course, also has Chinese influence, especially in Pakistan. India has, in the last few years with Modi, like more aligned with the United States interests. Modi's kind of a Trumpian figure in some ways. And I think it's another arena where the tensions between China, the United States, and even Russia has some interests left in Pakistan, could be tested. So we very much are interested in there being peace over there. Yeah, I went and did some research on what would nuclear fallout look like if the bombs were confined to Pakistan and India. Yeah, we would basically have global winter for 3 years. We are very interested in that not happening, and even China has made a couple of statements saying we do not want. This needs to be
isn't
walked back.
the world kind of still on mutually assured destruction when it comes to nukes?
Yes.
This is different in a sense because you're talking about rivals who are share a border. I mean, the United States and the Soviet Union, they're 10 miles apart in the Bering Strait, but not the massive population centers. You're talking about two countries that are very much close to each other with large population centers nearby. Then, and there's all that kind of, border rivalry, ethnic, differences, religious differences. So it could be, I remember when, thinking to myself, when I first heard about it, both these countries, this was years ago, of course, it'd be great if we could somehow get China and the United States to come together and say, okay, what is it going to take for us to get you two countries not to have nuclear weapons? That would be better for the world.
Yeah, maybe that could start to be part of the conversations in Switzerland or something.
Yeah. Okay, well, of course, we got to bring us up here. We're going to go into the good news section here. Erica,
oh, yeah.
You want to go first?
Wait, I'm in the wrong document. I'm coming back around. Good news. I am basically Pope Leo's mother. I'm so excited about learning about Pope Leo's mom. Just good news all around, the hand that rocks the cradle and all of that. So here we have our good friend Steve Cortez, of course, dug this up. He goes, Pope Leo's mother headed a, quote, decent literature committee. Yes. Of churches and PTAs in the south suburbs of Chicago, where Steve grew up, a couple miles away. They promised, quote, constant vigilance against salacious material. this is just me. But
What do
in
you
the
think she would have thought about Chicago Public Schools literature?
Oh my
generally?
gosh.
I mean, she was hiding the pride before it was cool.
She
Very
was
true.
hiding the pride before it was a thing. This is so great. Yeah, Mrs. Lewis M. Prevost of 212 East 144th Place, Dalton, you can see the pictures of the house on Zillow, has accepted the chairmanship of the Tri-City Committee for Decent Literature. The purpose of the committee is to function as a unit in keeping a constant vigilance of all outlets where salacious material may be found. Yes, it is moms like me who produce the next generation of leadership in the church. So
She said that direct quote?
No, I said that.
No.
Oh, okay.
Erica's just ripping.
That would have been something if she would have called her shot.
I
Babe
told you
Ruth
there,
style.
Yeah.
You got me in that. I was like, what?
But she was a cool lady. The New York Times had it was a pretty good article about her. Got a little girl boss at times because it's the New York Times. That's like the lens through which they have to read everything. But they're like, her friends called her Millie. She had a Bachelor of Science degree in 1947. And then she went to DePaul University where she got a master's. She was a working woman. She had kids a little later.
That's a cool picture.
And she had 3 boys within 4 years. I'm like, lady, I gotta hand it to you, super mom there. But
hard.
There it is. There she is. Look at that hat.
That fit is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty. And the fur stole,
and the striped polos on the boys.
I know, they are adorbs.
She was a librarian, right?
I believe she was. Let's see. She had an academic career.
Almost positive she was a librarian. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She was a great singer. She recorded herself singing the Ave Maria, which apparently her son loved very much.
Can you sing too, Erica?
I can't sing the Ave Maria.
Okay.
No.
We'll see what we can get out of Erica. But how much are you like?
Not going to happen. I'm pretty excited. So anyway, that was my good news. I found a kindred soul in Millie.
Relatable once again. All right, Josh, what do you got?
Well, I think this is great news. For the last few years, people bought new cars or rented a car. Had this, drive me crazy. You're driving, then you get to a stoplight, and the car turns off.
Yes.
Like, what the heck is this?
That is an abomination.
Start driving, it turns back on again. You have to find a little button to turn it off. This was supposedly to try to save fuel efficiency. Well, thank you, Trump administration. The new EPA administrator, Lee Zeldin, said, no more of this stuff. We're stopping it. Where your car dies at every red light to save, so that companies get a climate participation trophy. EPA approved it and everyone hates it, so we're fixing it.
There's no way this actually helps, right?
Someone actually did a test on it, and it showed it had the tiniest, influence, like 0.01% or something like that. So low that it's negligible.
Because if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, what is the cost, like the tax on the car to stop and start so many different times?
Well, it's actually the starter. You're gonna
you kill your starter.
Yeah, it's overall it's going to be horrible.
This is great news.
So this is good news.
I love when Josh gets into niche travel topics. Like car seats is a big one. Stopping.
I can go on. That's going to be in my Twilight Zone, bro.
Oh my gosh, we have one today.
Oh yeah.
I didn't even know. Wow, Josh beating the drum on car seats, one of my favorite recurring themes on the show. So my good news, and we'll see how this plays out, but I personally have a issue with this. So Trump signed an executive order this morning on drug pricing, which is very contentious. I think a lot of Americans are frustrated with, that's the show notes.
Oh, that's us.
Gotta get a look into there.
Showing the dirty laundry.
But yeah, here's the video on the retail drug prices. I think this explains it well. I'll get into a little bit of details after.
So this pharmaceutical deal, I'm just going off the Truth Social post. It says, it's a long one, but he says, I'm pleased to announce that today, the White House at 9 o'clock will be signing one of the most consequential executive orders ever. They will be reducing pharmaceuticals by about 80%. Essentially, we are going to pay less than the country that's paying the least for pharmaceuticals from here on in. How does that work?
First of all, it cannot be overstated how big of a deal this executive order that President Trump will be signing in a couple of hours is for American families, and especially our seniors who have been ripped off by very large and rich pharmaceutical companies. The United States of America is less than 5% of the world's population, yet we purchase 75% of Big Pharma's profits. We pay an astronomical amount in comparison to other countries around the world. So the the president is signing an executive order today that is going to implement most favored nations drug pricing, and is going to reduce the cost of drugs in this country by more than half at least. America is going to pay a better rate and a fairer rate to the rest of the world. That's what the American people deserve. This is huge news. And also, I will add, we know that healthcare costs and drug prices were the #1 driver of Biden inflation. So not only are we bringing those down, but we are ending Biden inflation once and for all.
Okay, so this is actually, let me give you the good and the bad about that.
Please do.
I mean, what these other countries do is they wait for the United States to come up with these new drugs, and they give it a couple of years, and then they wait so they can get like the reduced rates on it, and then they just flood their market with the cheaper amounts, and they say, oh, you can only sell it for this much, and the pharmaceutical company makes their profits in the United States, and then they slow their roll and throttle it to these other countries, and they get it later, but they get it cheaper. So what this has the advantage, the problem with this is that Americans then get drugs sooner, which is cool, but we're the ones paying the intellectual property freedom. We're paying for all the research and development, and then we might get the cure earlier, but then everyone else is getting it for a lot cheaper.
That's what they say. That's what
basically
they say.
what this will do is like you have two options. What you could have done is charged, export fees on pharmaceuticals to try to drive the price up that they pay overseas. Failing that, then you just say, we're going to have it, it's more politically expedient. We're going to have it cheap, just like the other countries do, which is fine. It just means just people understand this. You're going to get fewer cures, and they're going to take probably longer.
So,
and I'm not against that. I'm just saying that.
No, here's what I'll say. Do I think that, one, I'll give credit to the Trump administration. This is a really creative way of combating this problem. It's a problem that I think everyone acknowledges. Drugs in America are ridiculously expensive, to the point where it's reaching unsustainable levels. And I was looking into why.
You and I know this too, because in Michigan, you could just I'll just go into Windsor, Canada, and get it for cheaper. It's like,
yeah, exactly. And people do it. And it shouldn't be that way, right? Like if we have the most advanced, the most technologically advanced, we support
everyone
all
should
these
pay
companies.
for research and development.
Yeah. And look, I have some relatives that work in pharmaceutical industry, and I'm actually curious to hear their thoughts on it. I saw that the stock for a couple of them went down, the big pharma ones, but I was like, why is it so expensive? And so countries like Canada, the UK, or Germany, governments negotiate drug prices on behalf of public health systems. The US has a fragmented system, so it has to go through private insurers, pharmacy benefit managers, Medicare, Medicaid. They all negotiate separately, and they all have less leverage. So I think Biden actually attempted to do this with, I think, like 10 specific drugs. It was very small scope. And they were,
insulin,
of course,
right?
doing the trot around. We did this, this is great, whatever. But I mean, Medicare is the largest U.S. purchaser of drugs, and it's literally banned from directly negotiating prices up until these 10 drugs. So other nations' single payer systems secure lower prices by bargaining collectively. We have a fragmented system. We're not able to bargain.
They also don't several of these countries, they're not allowed to advertise on television anyway. So their advertising, markets are so much tinier. So it's like, okay.
Yeah. And it's like, well, if we have such a fragmented negotiating system, we pay exorbitant rates for drugs with Medicare, of course, then that's funded by taxpayers. Not only that, even if you're private, you have to pay crazy rates for all of this. I think the heart of this, and why I appreciate that President Trump is doing this, the amount of influence in lobbying and money in Washington, D.C., specifically for pharma, is completely out of control. And it's been out of control for so long. And I think not only that, which I think leads to our prices being insane, the insurance system in America is so beyond fragmented, and there's no leverage or negotiation on behalf of people. I mean, if you ask people what's most important to them when it comes to voting, problems that affect them, the number one's economy, and number two is always healthcare. And the healthcare system in America does not make any sense. And look, I get the arguments over privatized versus socialized, whatever.
Remember?
And I kept my doctor. Oh wait, I didn't.
Exactly. I mean, and then people always bring up the clip of Obama and Biden sitting there like, oh my gosh, we solved it. And then everyone's insurance basically became terrible. Right. And we now all pay insane amounts of money for very mediocre insurance. So it's all connected. And I think it kind of goes back to my thought on Trump's tariffs. Like if you're specifically in the industry, right, the finance industry, you saw the volatility of markets, that might be bad for you. But philosophically speaking, our government is acting on behalf of the American people here. And clearly the American people has been subsidizing the rest of the world when it comes to prices on drugs. I know you're talking about the mechanism of wait times or whatever, but we've been majority funding.
Yeah, I get that.
And then we also give a lot of these pharmaceutical companies crazy tax breaks to operate in the country. We give them tons of breaks when it comes to responsibility for terrible drugs. I think back to OxyContin. I think back to the Sackler family receiving basically a slap in the wrist for getting half the country addicted to painkillers. I think back to pharmaceutical companies being protected in terms of vaccines, not being able to be sued there. So I think I read this again as I really think that most Americans just appreciate that someone is being creative, negotiating on their behalf, and it feels like someone is working for you. Now you can argue over mechanics here, but this is how I feel.
Yeah, I get that. I 100% agree with that.
Right. And I appreciate too that it seems to be this is just one part of a more holistic approach to health in America in general. Because we saw, I mean, obviously with RFK being the head of HHS and looking to expand research not only on new drugs to solve problems like let's put a Band-Aid on something, but also to address root causes of the healthcare crisis in the United States with chronic illness. We just saw the internet blew up on Friday when Dr. Callie Means was nominated to be the Surgeon General. That was an incredible story. I mean, the left just lost their minds. They're like, she didn't even do residency. She's not a real doctor.
And Laura Loomer.
And Laura Loomer, right? And who was RFK's running mate?
Not even a real doctor. Are the fans of Joe Biden really saying that?
I mean, yeah, they are. Wait, no, who was RFK's running mate? My brain shut
Nicole
down.
Shanahan.
I'm a mother. Nicole. Yeah, she came on and she was like, the Means twins are Manchurian twin implant candidates or something. It was like crazy. They just went bonkers. But again, like I said, this being one piece of a broader, more holistic approach. I did want to ask though.
Sure.
How is this different? And I'm speaking from ignorance here. I did not look at the story at all. How is what this executive order is going to do different from putting like price caps, artificial price caps on other commodities like groceries, for example? Is it different? Am I missing some big piece?
Well, the difference is like if you put like price caps on oranges and bananas and apples or something like that are artificially lower than what it would be, then you're going to lead to shortages. With this, it's going to have a different effect. There are side effects. Again, we should know this when you're doing, policies. The side effect of this is it's that companies are going to have less incentive to go to market quicker with drugs. They might slow the process. Like, wow, it's gonna, we're not gonna be able to recoup as much as we want from the United States because we're gonna have to share it with everyone. So what they may end up doing is increase the price for everyone basically. And therefore it's a way of effectively passing on the cost to everyone, not just the United States, which is what we all would like.
Same thing with the UN.
But it just might mean that, cures might take an extra couple of years and maybe that's fine. Like I'd rather have that than to be subsidizing all these socialist countries' healthcare plans.
Yeah, and maybe slowing down the research would actually be good for getting more effective drugs.
Looking forward to talking to my relatives, of course, to get the farmer perspective on this. But cures, like I don't know what you mean. People are talking about insulin medicine, like stuff that's already been around for a long time that is just too expensive at this point. So,
well, again, I always like to try to remind people: companies will always charge as much as they can. That's always the case.
It's for profit.
I mean,
yeah, and they have to compete with other pharmaceutical companies. It's a capitalist economy. I get it. Like you want to beat people in the market,
right? There can be collusion in certain markets.
Pharma
is not beyond that.
The high barriers to entry in pharma for sure, no doubt on that. But yeah, akin to the UN, I think this is kind of philosophical change of looking at the world, seeing things that obviously don't make sense. Like why are we paying 70% of the world's costs when it comes to R&D, and basically negotiating a better deal on behalf of America and Americans.
America first.
If you think about if this saved the average family,
from any Republican president 10 years ago.
No, for sure. He understands the game.
They're now so in support of big pharma, they might be kind of against this.
I do love is like who can think of the $1 billion pharma companies? Who's going to argue on their behalf?
Not to dunk on Joe Biden again, but on The View, one of the women asked him, "How do you think of the job Trump's doing?" And he says, "He's not behaving like a Republican president should behave." I'm like, exactly. But that's how they see it. They're like, this isn't how Republicans should behave. They should be losers.
But here's the thing.
You don't get anything done.
Before we move on, because I know we have to go to Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Think about if this saves the average American family $1,000 a year. If the tax credit saves the average American family $1,500, $3,000 a year. Like I live in existence.
I could fix our bathroom.
Exactly. That would completely change something in my life. And it would, I'm on the high end probably. Think about someone that's very end to end. Like maybe they can start saving. Maybe they'll be able to start owning some assets. Like this is actually how you get people into the game. So I like, again, you can argue over the mechanics here. If it works, if it saves people money, then
let's talk about something that affects family. Let's go right to my Twilight Zone, brother.
Let's do it. Twilight Zone it is.
A new study found out that mandatory car safety seats prevented 148 births for every life that it saved.
That's insane.
Isn't that dumb?
I mean, this is the end of, so this is another thing that this would be solving, right? Like, yeah, car seats is contraception, but like we're talking about just helping out families that already exist that extra $1,000.
Well, this is just a study that's coming out.
Zero.
We're waiting for Trump to do something on this because it would be great if he could. But, again, this is one of those things where sometimes we look at things in a bubble and we're like, oh, car safety, car safety laws are great. Let's make it better. Let's make it better. Let's make it better. And I remember even in Michigan, they're like, well, you should be wearing it till you're 9 years old. I'm like, 9 years old? Are you out of your mind? First of all, my 9-year-old is like taller than sixth graders. Like, we're built like Vikings. Sorry. Like, this is stupid. But again, it's only looking at the, this could save one baby. This could save one kid. It must be good. I want car seats for obviously, young kids, obviously my point. But once they get to be 5, 6, 7 years old, like making it mandatory rather than we recommend you do it, because there are a lot of families around the country who are just like, I don't know if we can afford to get a new car, a bigger car, move from that smaller sedan or, crossover SUV to getting a bigger like minivan or a Suburban or something like that. This makes a difference. And JD Vance talked about this over the last year. He didn't have this factoid from a study to point to it, but he did bring this up. And people in the mainstream media were like, what are you talking about? Yeah. People are deciding whether or not to have babies based on this. Yeah, they are, you idiots. Yeah, they absolutely are. I mean, it's 100% families make that kind of a calculation. Are you out of your minds? Of course.
Dude, you're not even talking about the expiration date on car seats too.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly how that's calculated, but you can't have a car seat past a certain expiration date. I'm not sure how they figure that out. But that also factors in, right? Not many people can afford new car seats. You're looking for.
Here's a funny thing, and they won't even let you leave the hospital unless you show them that the car seat's installed properly.
Josh,
there's a way to get away from that, though. We used to live a block away from the hospital.
You just walk home.
Sorry.
Sorry, Lori. You just gave birth, but you're walking home.
This is my life. But would this be under Duffy, Josh? Would this be Transportation Secretary?
Yeah. I mean, maybe I got to make a phone call, huh?
Well, we had great recommendations on traveling with kids. This is factors in for sure.
This would be it. We should write a release on that. Yeah.
Do you think we should get back to manufacturing station wagons in the 60s where the seats
they could just throw all the kids in the back, the big,
Fuel efficiency standards made station wagons illegal, and they were affordable for families, and we made them illegal. Again, this is one of those things where bureaucrats who live in Washington, D.C., and they ride like rats on the subway system don't have real world experience of what's going on in people's lives. Like, I'm sorry, we used to have this idea. How is it going to play in Peoria? How are the people going to react to this? And for the last 30 years, it's just like, wow, we can do it. We should do it.
Right.
We used to have a Congress, that passed laws. Now it's just bureaucrats.
All right, Erica. Josh, thank you for your contribution to your regular recurring segment, car seat regulations and niche travel regulations.
I have to have these regular segments, Tom. I mean,
it's the best.
Talking, hey, consistory, what's the Pope going to do? Hey, red hat, Gomez, LA, make it happen.
All right, cool. Erica, what do you got?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, Colin Jost and Michael Che, I would not recommend watching them regularly, but like a broken clock, about twice a year, they're right. Or maybe that's twice a day. No. So we have Colin Jost. Can we just play this? This is great.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Weekend Update. I'm Michael Che.
I'm Colin Jost.
Well, the Catholic Church has elected the first ever Pope from America. And as an American Catholic, I could not be more proud, which is a sin, and now I'm ashamed. The Vatican has
There's a
selected
fix for
Cardinal
that.
Robert Francis Prevost, who is from the south side of Chicago, to be the new Pope. And you can tell he's from the south side because he's got his hands up.
Which is funny.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
This pick was actually a welcome surprise for me because when I heard the Pope was a super religious guy from Chicago in a funny robe, I was worried it was Kanye.
That one got Josh.
I also love that conservatives are already complaining that this Pope is too woke. How woke can a 69-year-old man from Chicago be? It's not like he came out and was like, hey, I'm Pope Leo the 14th, he, him. The reality is there are no woke Catholics. If you're a woke Catholic, you're just not Catholic anymore.
Hey, what did I tell you? You can stop it there, and then we get into Joe Biden. But
That's
Bingo.
good.
that was actually pretty good. Like, he kept it clean. It was funny. Go,
Yeah,
Colin.
even
Did
Saturday
not know
Night
you were
Live
Catholic.
gets it.
I didn't know Joseph's Catholic. That's interesting.
I think he was raised Catholic.
There you go.
You know, I went to Catholic school for 12 years or something. You know,
Well, he didn't say it like that way. But
No.
John Mulaney was Catholic too at one point.
Wow.
Mm.
Would be
There's a lot of
surprised
that
he
kind of
was
have
not, yeah. I
interesting
mean,
Catholic roots.
not that the Irish names are a dead ringer, but you know.
Pretty close, man. Pretty close. Okay, mine. So you know, I have a favorite meme. I'd have to dig it up, but it's the guy with his palm out, pointing at it, and it's
Hand over the money.
Hand over the money. It's referring to three things are consistent in life: death, Alabama football, and taxes.
Yeah.
And so
There go the balloons.
this latest edition of that framework, Pope Leo might have to deal with U.S. tax returns.
Yeah. The Pope's going to be filing U.S. tax returns.
It does not matter
Probably not. No.
who you are.
Can Trump pardon him? I mean, come on, that would be a gesture of goodwill.
Doesn't matter who you are.
No,
The
Right.
IRS
He's
is
not
going to
gonna
be
do that, no.
right
No,
there.
right.
Statutory. But the thing is, he might not even earn an income as the Pope.
Hmm.
You know, like
That's true.
And frankly, he has dual citizenship with Peru, and so for the last how many ever years, he's probably filed taxes in Peru.
Mhm.
And so,
But he still had to in America, I think.
yes, but the question would be: there's a personage exemption for the IRS for ministers, so like a good chunk of it you're not even paying. So he might effectively be paying like zero taxes anyway.
Josh, but you're saying pay taxes, but he still has to file.
Possibly, he can vote. By the way, he can vote in the presidential election. In fact, our Pope is eligible to run if you move back. Can you imagine?
Man, the papists are back, man. Talk about
Holy smokes.
political power back at the Catholic Church if he came back.
Well, it's funny. So my good friend Thomas Peters he still runs a Twitter account for 15 years, whatever. You know, he's like super patriotic. He loves his church, so he names his Twitter account American Papist. And so I reached out to Tom. I said, "Hey, man, you finally got it. You finally got your American Papist."
That's right.
You should offer that up for sale to the Pope. Said, "Hey, if you want it, man, I got an account for you.
We'll get you a good deal here."
Yeah, we no tariffs. Okay, well, we'll see if the IRS gets him. I'm tired of the IRS getting me personally. But
that does remind me of one of the funniest lines of Apollo 13. When the three astronauts, they left on April 13th and they go into space and like they're having all this trouble. And then the character that, says, I forget, Kevin Bacon plays him. I forget what his name in real life. He forgot to file his taxes. And they're like, "Can you let him know?" And so the president usually calls, and like, and the little one scene is like, guys, we just heard from the president, and you most definitely got an extension on your taxes because you are most definitely outside of the country.
Yeah. That's a great line. That's a great movie. Have you
Sure.
watched it yet, Pogo?
Sure, if you believe it.
Oh my gosh. Unbelievable.
Sure,
Yeah.
if you believe it. Anyway, great show today, guys. Josh, enjoy Rome. Go.
Yeah, it's less than 24 hours.
When are you going to be back in the States, by the way?
I will be back in about 26 hours. So
All right.
time is closing in.
Will you kiss the ground and stop talking with your hands?
What do you mean?
Yeah. America's clamoring, Josh. You must return.
Yeah, check the replay in this episode. I feel like there has been an increase in frequency of hand talk.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, sweet. We're looking forward to having you back. Hey, if you guys want to check out some additional commentary, I did a video about Pete Buttigieg that I very much enjoyed making. We'll be making more of it. I believe we have another one coming for you this week that will be on the YouTube channel. So if you want to see our extra content, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's just the LOOPCast. You can look it up. Go ahead and subscribe there. You can join us live Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Join the Champions Club. Best way to support us, catholicvote.org/champions. Thank you to the University of Dallas and Home Title Lock for sponsoring today's episode. But of course, pray for us above everything else. St. Thomas More, St. Fidelis, Our Lady of Guadalupe, pray for us. And we'll see you guys ready to rock on Wednesday. Peace.